My sister threw a birthday party for her kids in my backyard while I was at work. They used my grill, my pool, and even my speakers. Her kids even recorded themselves calling me their free maid. When the party was over, they left behind $8,700 in damage. My sister just laughed and said, "Don't be dramatic." "They're just kids." I handed her an invoice for the damages, but she tore it up right in front of me. So I sent a copy of the invoice along with the video straight to my lawyer. When the certified letter arrived, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Burned meat, chlorine, spilled soda, and something that smelled electrical. I had just pulled into my driveway after a 12-hour Saturday shift at my beauty salon when I noticed 3 black trash bags leaning against my garage door. One had ripped open, spilling paper plates, crushed juice boxes, and blue frosting all over the pavement. My front gate was hanging crooked from one hinge. Music was still playing somewhere behind the house, but it sounded distorted, almost like the speakers were underwater. For a few seconds, I just sat behind the wheel, staring. Then I saw the balloons. Dozens of them were tied to my fence, my patio chairs, and even the Japanese maple tree I had planted the previous spring. A banner stretched across the back porch. "Happy birthday, Ava and Mason." Ava and Mason were my sister Rachel's children, and I had never invited them to my house. I grabbed my bag, stepped out of the car, and walked through the damaged gate. My backyard looked as if a storm had torn through it. One of my expensive outdoor speakers was lying face down beside the pool, dripping water. The other was still mounted beneath the patio roof, crackling through a children's song at full volume. My grill was left open, with black smoke curling up from a tray of completely burned hamburger patties. Grease had spilled onto the stone beneath it, leaving a dark stain across the pale pavers. Pool floats, plastic cups, torn wrapping paper, and half-eaten food were scattered all over the grass. 2 patio chairs had been thrown into the shallow end. Someone had dragged my cream-colored outdoor sofa closer to the pool, and every cushion was soaked through. My stomach tightened as I headed toward the house. The sliding door was unlocked. Inside, muddy footprints covered the kitchen floor. The downstairs bathroom sink was clogged with cake frosting and paper towels. Someone had gone through my pantry, emptied my snack cabinet, and left the refrigerator door wide open. Then I heard laughter coming from the far side of the yard. Rachel was standing beside the pool with her phone in one hand and a half-finished drink in the other. She was wearing a white summer dress and oversized sunglasses, looking completely relaxed. 4 other mothers stood nearby, gathering their bags and calling for their children. Rachel noticed me and smiled. "Oh, you're home." I stared at her. "What happened here?" She lowered her sunglasses slightly. "The party happened here." "What party?" She laughed as though I had asked the most ridiculous question in the world. "The twins' birthday party. I told you I was planning something. You told me you were thinking about having a party. You never asked to use my house." Rachel waved her hand toward the backyard. "Emma, please, you were at work all day. The place was empty." "It wasn't empty. It was my home." One of the mothers glanced at Rachel, mumbled a quick goodbye, and hurried her children toward the gate. The others quickly followed. Within a minute, the backyard was almost completely silent. Rachel sighed. "Don't start." I pointed toward the broken gate. "Did you force your way in?" "Of course not." Mom gave me the side door code. For a moment, I couldn't say anything. I had given our mother that code 2 years earlier for emergencies. She had promised me she would never share it. "You brought strangers into my home without permission." "They're not strangers, they're parents from the kids' school. They're strangers to me." Rachel rolled her eyes. "You have a pool, a grill, speakers, and this huge backyard. What was I supposed to do, rent some depressing room in a bowling alley?" "Yes." She stared at me. "What? You were supposed to rent a venue, use your own house, or ask me. My yard is too small." "That isn't my problem." Her expression immediately hardened. "You're being ridiculous." "The children had fun, isn't that what matters?" I looked around at the destruction. "My speaker is in the pool. Mason knocked it over by accident. My furniture is soaked. They're outdoor cushions. My grill is still burning. I was going to turn it off. You were leaving." Rachel placed her drink on the nearby table and crossed her arms. "Why do you always have to ruin everything?" I almost laughed. "How am I ruining everything?" "Yes, you walk in with that expression like someone committed a crime." "It was a birthday party, Emma. A family birthday party at my house without my permission. You weren't using it." That sentence hit me harder than all the damage around me. "You weren't using it." As though my home were something she could simply borrow whenever I wasn't physically standing inside it. As though everything I had worked for belonged to the family as long as they wanted it badly enough. Rachel picked up her purse. They'll come back tomorrow and help clean. No. You're cleaning it now. I'm exhausted. So am I. You own a beauty salon. You spent the day doing hair and makeup, not digging ditches. I felt my jaw tighten. Rachel had always talked about my business like that. To her, I was just playing with makeup, even though I had spent 12 years building my salon from a single rented chair into a successful business with 8 employees. She loved getting free hair treatments, discounted products, and emergency appointments from me, but she had never treated my work like it was a real career. I worked from 7 this morning until 6, I said. I'm not cleaning up a party I never authorized. Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and smiled. The kids are waiting in the car. I have to go, Rachel. She walked toward the gate without turning around. Send me pictures of anything that's actually broken and try not to be dramatic. Then she left. I stood in the middle of the destroyed yard, listening to the damaged speaker making a faint, distorted hiss. That was when my phone vibrated. My niece Ava had tagged me in a video. I opened it. The video had been recorded beside my pool earlier that afternoon. Ava, who had just turned 14, was filming herself and 3 of her friends while Mason jumped into the pool behind them. One of the girls asked, "Whose house is this?" Ava smiled at the camera. "My Aunt Emma's. She's rich and she never has kids, so we use her stuff." The girls laughed. Then Mason yelled from the pool, "She'll clean it up. She's basically our free maid." Ava turned the camera toward the patio. Food was crushed into the cushions and wet towels were scattered all over the ground. "Yeah," she said, "Aunt Emma loves cleaning after us." More laughter followed. The video ended when one of the kids dumped a bucket of pool water over my portable speaker while Mason cheered. I watched it twice. By the 3rd time, my hands had stopped shaking. I saved the video, took screenshots, and uploaded everything to a private cloud folder. Then I started taking pictures of the damage, every chair, every stain, every broken hinge. Every muddy footprint inside my house. I photographed the clogged sink, the open refrigerator, the burned grill, and the waterlogged speakers. I also photographed the pool filter, which was making a grinding sound I had never heard before. I didn't clean a single thing until I had documented every detail. Around 9 that night, my mother called. "Rachel says you screamed at her in front of the children." I didn't scream. Well, she's very upset. I came home to 30 people using my property without permission. They're her family. The parents of her children's friends are not my family, my mother sighed. "Emma, your sister doesn't have the kind of home you have. She wanted the children to have a special birthday. Then she should have asked. She knew you would say no." "Exactly." There was silence on the phone. Then my mother spoke in that slow, disappointed tone she'd used with me since childhood. "You've always been very protective of your things." "My things, you know what I mean." "Yes, I do." "I think you mean the things I worked for." There's no reason to sound hostile. "Did you give Rachel my security code?" Another silence. "It was only for one afternoon. You had no right. She's your sister. That code was for emergencies. A birthday party isn't an emergency." My mother's voice became sharper. "You have that beautiful house and you barely even use the backyard. Rachel has 2 children. Sometimes people who have more should be willing to share." I looked through the window at the trash floating in my pool. "I'm changing the code tonight and you're not getting the new one." I ended the call. The next morning, I hired a professional cleaning crew. I also called a pool technician, an electrician, a landscaper, and the company that had installed my outdoor sound system. By Monday afternoon, the estimates had started coming in. Pool cleaning and pump repair, $2,180. Replacement outdoor speakers and wiring, $1,460. Gate and fence repair, $740. Professional interior and exterior cleaning, $1,125. Replacement sofa cushions and 2 damaged chairs, $1,530. Grill repair and stone stain treatment, $965. Landscaping and tree damage, $700. The total came to exactly $8,700. That didn't even include the hours I had spent documenting everything, rearranging appointments, meeting with technicians, and dealing with the insurance company. I printed all the estimates and placed them inside a folder. On Tuesday evening, I drove to Rachel's house. She opened the door wearing pajamas, even though it was barely 7. "What are you doing here? We need to talk." She glanced behind her. The television was playing loudly. Ava and Mason were sitting on the sofa eating pizza. Rachel stepped onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind her. "If this is about the party, I already told you I'd help clean. The cleanup is finished." "Great." Problem solved. I handed her the folder. What's this? An invoice. She opened it and stared at the total, then she laughed, not a nervous laugh, a genuine laugh. You cannot be serious. I am $8,700. That's the documented cost of the damage. They're just kids you brought onto my property without permission. You're charging me because children made a mess at a birthday party. I'm charging you for a broken gate. Damaged furniture, burned stone, pool repairs, destroyed speakers, professional cleaning and landscaping. Rachel flipped through the pages. This is insane. You always buy the most expensive version of everything. And now you expect me to replace it. I expect you to pay for what was damaged. I don't have $8,000. You should have thought about that before hosting a party at someone else's home. Her expression changed. The laughter vanished from her face. You know, this is exactly why nobody feels comfortable around you. I said nothing. You think because you own a business and bought a big house, you're better than everyone else. This has nothing to do with my business. It has everything to do with it. You've become obsessed with money. I'm asking you to take responsibility. You're punishing my children because you're jealous. Jealous of what? That I have a family. The words hit exactly where she meant them to. Rachel knew I had ended my engagement 3 years earlier after discovering that my fiancé had been stealing money from the salon. She also knew I had struggled with the possibility that I might never have children. She had used that pain against me before, but never this openly. I took a slow breath. This is your final chance to handle this privately. Rachel tore the invoice in half, then she tore the pieces again. They fluttered onto the porch between us. There, she said. Now it's handled. I looked down at the torn paper. Rachel smiled. What are you going to do, sue your own sister? I raised my eyes to hers. I brought you a copy. Her smile disappeared slightly. I turned around and walked back to my car. The next morning, I called Daniel Reeves, an attorney who had previously helped me negotiate the lease for my second salon location. I explained everything. He asked me to send him the repair estimates, photographs, security footage, text messages, and Ava's video. You have cameras? He asked. Front entrance, side gate, patio, and kitchen. Did they record your sister entering? Yes, she arrived with folding tables at 10:14 that morning. My mother gave her the code over the phone, and the party guests, all of them. Any footage showing the damage happening, the patio camera caught one of the children pushing the speaker into the pool. It also shows Rachel watching him do it. Daniel was silent for a moment. Emma, this is much more than a disagreement about cleaning costs. She knowingly entered your property without permission, brought guests inside, used your amenities, and caused documented damage. Having the code doesn't automatically mean she had permission. I don't want her arrested. I'm not suggesting that as the first step. We'll start with a formal demand letter. And the children's video, we preserve it as evidence. We don't post it publicly. We don't threaten to embarrass them. We use it only to establish knowledge, conduct, and responsibility. That distinction mattered to me. I was angry, but I didn't want revenge against Ava and Mason. They had behaved terribly, but their attitude had come from somewhere. Children didn't simply decide on their own that their aunt was a free maid. Someone had taught them that. Daniel prepared the letter. It demanded payment of $8,700 within 15 days. It included copies of the repair estimates, still images from the security footage, and a written notice requiring Rachel to preserve all photographs, videos, texts, and social media posts connected to the party. It also explained that if she refused to resolve the matter, we would pursue recovery through the courts and provide the evidence to the appropriate insurance companies. The letter was sent by certified mail. It arrived on Friday at 11:32 a.m. At 11:41, Rachel called me. I let it ring. At 11:43, she called again, then again. By noon, I had 9 missed calls, 3 voicemails, and 17 text messages. Call me now. You involved a lawyer. Are you actually insane? You're threatening my children. Mom is having chest pain because of you. This is family business. At 12:18. My mother called the salon. My receptionist, Nicole, came into my office with an uncomfortable look on her face. Your mother says it's an emergency. I took the call. How could you do this? My mother demanded. I've been working. You sent a legal threat to your sister. I sent a demand for repayment. She's terrified. She laughed when I asked her to handle this privately. I handed her $8,700 in documented repair bills. She says your lawyer is threatening criminal charges. The letter says nothing about criminal charges. Well, that's how it sounds. That isn't my problem. My mother took a sharp breath. I don't recognize you anymore. I looked through the glass wall of my office. Outside, my staff moved from one client to another. Hairdryers hummed. Someone laughed near the reception desk. Every chair was occupied. This business had started with one mirror, one second-hand styling chair, and $600 I had saved while working 2 jobs. There had been nights when I slept in the back room because I couldn't afford both rent and transportation. Rachel had never asked how I survived those years. She only noticed what I had now. You recognize me, I said. You just don't recognize what happens when I stop allowing you to ignore my boundaries. Your sister made a mistake. She planned a party, gathered supplies, invited guests, got my code. Entered my house, used my property, left without cleaning, laughed about the damage, and then tore up the invoice. I paused. Which part was the mistake? She didn't think you would react like this. That's because she didn't think I would react at all. My mother lowered her voice. You're going to destroy this family over money. No, Rachel damaged my home. You helped her get inside. And now you're both upset because I'm refusing to pay for the consequences. I was trying to help my grandchildren. You gave away access to my home. I said I was sorry. You haven't said that. Even once. She went silent for a moment. Then she said, I'm sorry you're upset. That isn't an apology. I ended the call. That evening, Rachel showed up at the salon 20 minutes before closing. She walked straight past the reception desk, ignoring Nicole when she asked her to wait, and pushed her way into my office. You need to call off your lawyer. 2 clients glanced over through the glass. I stood up and closed the office door behind her. You cannot come into my workplace and make a scene. I'm not making a scene. You are. Lower your voice. You sent me a certified letter like I'm some kind of criminal. I asked you to handle this privately. You tore up the invoice because you said it was ridiculous. Then explain that to my lawyer. Her expression changed. I called my insurance company, she said. They told me my policy probably doesn't cover intentional entry onto someone else's property. That sounds like something you need to discuss with them. You know I can't afford this. You could afford custom cakes, rented tables, decorations, party favors, and catering for 30 people. That was for my children. You also could have afforded a legitimate venue. A venue with a pool was almost $2,000. I stared at her. Finally, you're saying it yourself. She looked confused. You used my home to save $2,000, I said, and caused almost $9,000 in damage. It wasn't supposed to happen, she said, her voice cracking. But it did. What do you want from me, Emma? Do you want me to beg? I want you to accept responsibility. I don't have the money, then propose a payment plan. She looked genuinely offended. You want me to make monthly payments to my own sister? Yes. For how long? That depends on how much you can afford to pay each month. She shook her head. No, absolutely not. You don't get to hold this over me for years. I'm not holding anything over you. I'm asking you to repay a debt. You don't even need the money. The sentence was so familiar that I almost smiled. Whenever Rachel wanted something from me, my financial stability somehow became proof that I should give it to her. Free salon services, emergency babysitting, loan payments, holiday gifts. Even a deposit for Ava's school trip. According to Rachel, I didn't need the money because I had more than she did. She never stopped to think about what I had sacrificed to earn it. You're right, I said. I won't lose my home without that money. I can survive the repairs, but that doesn't mean the damage suddenly becomes yours to ignore. Her eyes filled with tears. You've always resented me. No, I resented being told that loving you meant accepting whatever you did. She reached for the door handle. When Mom finds out you refuse to help me, she'll never forgive you. Mom helped you trespass into my home. Her opinion isn't my priority right now. Rachel slammed the door behind her so hard that the glass rattled. The following week, messages started coming from my extended family. An aunt accused me of traumatizing the children. A cousin said successful people shouldn't humiliate relatives over a few broken things. Then my father, who had stayed silent until that point, finally sent me a message. Your sister was wrong, but involving lawyers is too far. I replied with a photograph of the speaker floating in my pool and a screenshot from Ava's video. He never responded. Then Rachel made her biggest mistake. She posted a long message on social media claiming that her wealthy, childless sister was suing 2 children over a birthday party. She wrote that I cared more about furniture than family. She didn't mention that she had entered my home without permission. She didn't mention the broken gate, the damaged pool equipment, or the invoice she had torn apart. Daniel told me not to respond publicly. Instead, he forwarded the post to Rachel's attorney, who had finally contacted him. 2 days later, the post was gone. Then Ava called me. I almost ignored the call, but something made me answer. Aunt Emma, her voice was small. "Hi, Ava, Mom says we're not allowed to talk to you." "Then why are you calling?" she sniffed. "Because the video was my fault. The damage wasn't all your fault. I posted it." "Yes, I know. I thought it was funny." "I know." There was a long silence. "Mom always says you care more about your salon and your house than you care about us." My chest tightened. "Do you believe that?" "I don't know. I've been to every school performance you invited me to. I paid for your art camp last summer. I stayed with you for 3 days when your mom had surgery." "Does that sound like I don't care about you?" "No. Caring about you doesn't mean you can enter my home, damage my belongings, and insult me. I didn't think you'd see the video. That doesn't make what you said any less hurtful." "I'm sorry." This time, unlike my mother's apology, the words sounded genuine. "Thank you for saying that. Mason is sorry too, but he's scared. He can tell me himself when he's ready." "Are you going to send Mom to jail?" "No. I'm asking her to pay for the damage. She says we might lose our house. That is something you need to discuss with your parents. The adults are responsible for solving this." Ava started crying. For one terrible moment, I wanted to take everything back. I wanted to tell her everything would be okay, pay for the damage myself, and return to the familiar role of fixing whatever Rachel had broken. Then I remembered the video. She'll clean it up. She's basically our free maid. I could love my niece without teaching her that tears erased consequences. "Your mother had several chances to resolve this," I said gently. "I hope she chooses to do that now." 3 days before the deadline, Rachel's attorney proposed mediation. We met in a conference room downtown. Rachel arrived with her husband, Paul. He looked exhausted and wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel placed the photographs, invoices, security stills, and a written timeline on the table. Rachel's attorney looked through everything without saying a word. Then Daniel played the patio footage. On the screen, Rachel stood beside the pool while Mason and another boy carried my speaker toward the water. A child shouted, "Throw it in." Rachel looked directly at them. Instead of stopping them, she laughed and raised her phone to record. The boys dropped the speaker. Water splashed across the patio. In the conference room, Paul closed his eyes. "I never saw that," he said. Rachel turned toward him. "It was chaos. I couldn't control everyone. You were filming. It happened so fast." The footage continued. Later, Rachel dragged the soaked sofa cushions onto the grass. She looked around, then placed them back onto the furniture as if trying to hide what had happened. Next came the footage of her forcing the gate when it wouldn't open properly. Then the kitchen camera showed her unlocking the sliding door and waving guests inside. Paul stared at her. "You told me Emma gave you permission." Rachel didn't answer. "You said she offered you the house." "I said she wouldn't mind." "No, you said she offered it." My mother leaned forward. Arguing over the wording isn't helping. Paul looked directly at her. "Did Emma give permission?" My mother's mouth tightened. "She didn't specifically say no to me because I didn't know about the party," I said. The mediator asked Rachel if she disputed the repair costs. Her attorney cleared his throat. "We reviewed the estimates. They appear to be generally supported." "Generally," Daniel repeated. "We also have proof of payment for every repair that was completed." He slid the copies across the table. The final amount was still $8,700. Rachel stared down at the documents. "I can pay $2,000, she said. "And what about the remaining balance?" the mediator asked. "I don't know." Paul spoke quietly. "We could sell the second car." Rachel immediately turned toward him. "No, it's in my name too. I need that car. You work from home 3 days a week. I am not selling my car because Emma is vindictive." Paul's expression changed. For the first time, he looked directly at me. "I'm sorry," he said. "I believed her. I thought you had agreed to everything." Rachel stared at him as if he had betrayed her. "Whose side are you on? The side where we pay for the damage we caused?" "We." "Yes, Rachel, we're married. Your decisions affect me too." My mother started crying. "This has gone far enough. Emma, please take the $2,000 and just end this." I looked at her. "If Rachel had caused nearly $9,000 worth of damage to my home, would you tell her to accept $2,000? That's different." "Why?" The answer was obvious. "Because she has children. there it was. The explanation behind every exception, every demand, and every boundary Rachel had been allowed to cross. She had children, so her time mattered more, her money mattered more, her home mattered more. Her mistakes were easier to excuse, and because I didn't have children, everything I owned was apparently considered extra. My house, my income, my weekends, my work, my time, my dignity. "I'll agree to a reasonable payment plan," I said, "but I will not erase the debt." Rachel pushed her chair back. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said. "I'm ending it." The agreement was finalized that afternoon. Rachel and Paul paid $2,700 immediately. The remaining $6,000 would be paid over 20 months. Rachel also agreed to remove all public statements she had made about me, stay away from my home and business, and communicate about the dispute only through the agreed legal channels. If she missed 2 payments, the full remaining balance would become due. As part of the settlement, I agreed not to pursue additional claims for lost time or legal expenses beyond the amount we had negotiated. When Rachel signed, she pressed the pen so hard that it nearly tore through the paper. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I signed beneath her name. "No," I said. "I regret not doing it sooner." For the first few months, the payments arrived without a single message. My mother stopped calling. My father sent me a birthday card with nothing written inside except his name. Ava mailed me a handwritten apology. Mason added one sentence at the bottom: "I'm sorry I broke your speaker." I know it wasn't funny. I kept the letter. I didn't pretend everything was suddenly fixed, but I acknowledged the apology. I also stopped giving free salon appointments to family members. When my mother's regular coloring appointment came up, my receptionist called to confirm the new price. My mother canceled. Rachel later tried to book Ava for free highlights using an online booking note that simply said, "Family appointment." Nicole forwarded it to me. I replied with the standard service price. The appointment was canceled 10 minutes later. At first, setting these small boundaries made me feel cruel. Then I started realizing how much of my life I had spent protecting other adults from experiencing discomfort. Every family emergency somehow became my responsibility, every financial shortfall. Every forgotten birthday cake, every last-minute school payment, every request for free salon products. I had confused being useful with being loved. Without all those demands, my life became quieter. I expanded the salon's bridal team and promoted Nicole to manager. For the first time in years, I stopped working every Saturday. I replaced the damaged outdoor furniture, but I didn't try to make the backyard exactly the way it had been before. Instead, I chose darker cushions that could handle real life. I installed a locking cover over the pool controls and replaced the old gate with a much stronger one. Then I bought a long wooden table and invited my employees over for dinner. There were no fancy decorations, no rented tables, and no children screaming around the pool. Just 8 women who had helped me build something from nothing, sitting beneath warm patio lights while soft music played through my new speakers. Nicole raised her glass. "To Emma," she said. "The only boss I know who can fix a bad color correction, negotiate a commercial lease, and intimidate an insurance adjuster before lunch." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I stood beside the pool and watched the lights reflecting across the water. My phone buzzed. It was a payment notification from Rachel. "Payment 12 of 20. Beneath it was a message. "Ava wants to invite you to her art exhibition next month. She asked me to tell you." I read the message twice. For almost a year, Rachel had communicated with me only about the payments. I typed a short response. "Ava can invite me herself." 5 minutes later, my niece texted me. "My art will be displayed at the community center on Saturday. I'd really like you to come, but I understand if you don't want to." I went. Rachel and I didn't hug. My mother didn't approach me. But Ava stood beside a painting of a woman standing behind a bright red door. One hand was wrapped around the handle, while sunlight poured through the windows behind her. "What is it called?" I asked. Ava looked nervous. "Boundaries." I turned toward her. She swallowed. "Our teacher said a boundary isn't always a wall. Sometimes it's a door because you get to decide when it opens." For a moment I couldn't speak, then I smiled. "That's a very good title." Ava glanced toward her mother, who was standing across the room. "Mom still says you went too far." "I know, but Dad says she was wrong." She looked at me. "What do you think?" I studied the painting. "I think we thought your house belonged to us because you had more than we did." I nodded slowly. "That doesn't make you a bad person." "No," she said. "But it made us act badly." I nodded again. "That's an important difference. 8 months later, the final payment arrived. Rachel included no apology, only a short message paid in full. I hope you're satisfied. I didn't respond. Satisfaction wasn't the right word. I hadn't enjoyed watching my sister deal with the consequences of what she had done. I hadn't enjoyed the silence from my parents. I hadn't enjoyed the distance from my niece and nephew, but I had learned something that all that discomfort had hidden from me for years. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will often describe those boundaries as cruelty. They'll call you selfish when you stop serving them. They'll accuse you of caring too much about money when you ask them to repay what they destroyed. They'll say they're just kids, when what they really mean is, you should carry the consequences so we don't have to. Rachel had believed my home was free simply because I wasn't charging her to use it. My mother had believed my time was free because I had always made myself available. The children had believed I was their free maid because the adults around them treated my hard work as something they were entitled to. The $8,700 repaired my property. The legal letter repaired something else too. It repaired the part of me that had spent years believing I needed permission to say no. Rachel no longer had a code to my home. My mother no longer had unlimited access to my time. My family no longer received free services just because we shared the same blood. The people who loved me without expecting money, favors, or obedience still had a place in my life. Everyone else would have to knock.
And next, this is where I want to hear your opinion. Do you think Ima did the ring thing by making Rachel pay the full $8,700, or do you think she should have handled the situation differently because they were family? Personally, I think Rachel crossed a serious line. I was not just about the damage, it was about using someone home without permission and then accepting them to clean up the consequence. What do you think? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in next one.